morning, class. Welcome to Homeroom with Unc and Market Monk. Morning, P. How's your week?
AVGO. Good. um, yeah, just it's kind of it's pretty stable week. Some good setups, and then just like set up for that home run at the end. Did not. I thought 10% or something. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you just can't really predict something popping off like that. But it's a name we've been on for a long time. After the split, especially, got a lot easier. Um, Still got some shares from way back when, but yeah, the options obviously just crushed it on that. Kind of interesting moving forward in that sector too. The chips, that's still going to be a big story next year, I think.
Nice. Well, for spelling them, HIMX. Yeah, that was great. Stitch Fix. Got into some beverages early there as well. Um, EV, let's fucking go. That was a good little easy sales pop. That's why you rent and repeat that, and just some good stuff in general. The world finding out about Rigetti this week. Um, that again, I use Twitter for what not to trade, so I let that go a little early. So I should have sold that now. Um, but
Yeah,
in general, good. I don't know how long ago I said it, but I've been skipping that one. I've been saying the time thing a lot. But the fireworks are still here. They're just one at a time. You just gotta wait for them. They just go pew pew pew. And AVGO, I got that up on the screen right now. Man, I didn't trade that one. Obviously, that's not my thing. But uh, similar to Spy, hasn't touched the 50 all year. So
yeah.
another healthy chart and a healthy market. Just ending the year strong here. Santa Rally seems real.
Yeah, so yeah, a couple things with AVGO. I had this line, sort of the more recent stuff, like the 122 a couple times. Some of the I was pre-split, so 1200, like 1220 was it. And then it's like when the market pulled back, like where's the higher low? And that's the thing about these stocks that like I've had enough time in the market now to start to look for that. It's like my pivot might not really come back. And so there's got to be something like recognizing what are they building here at like a higher spot, and like a kind of a double tap there, was pretty much it. And then most recently, the trade was it's going to go test 180 and then keep some, and then that's that's how that played out. So developing patience when you're in an uptrend, I mean, is something I've definitely worked on, and that was a good stock to do it on. It's an easier read for me than Nvidia, just because of that one's so noisy. But yeah, I mean that was good. The quantum thing. So we were early on that
A little bit.
by a year. I mean, and have already we traded those. This is like not our first round with these names, and I mean to see now all of a sudden all these Twitter accounts popping up that are devoted to quantum computing, and it's all on the big podcasts and stuff like that. But to see that the sector start to play out like we talked about, as that um, there's these small names, IronQ, Rigetti. Those are the ones we're on first. And then I said, Honeywell, Google, IBM, like they're big quantum stocks too. And no one just really even cares or knows about that at this point. And that was literally a year ago. And to see this all happen, and then the secondary part of it, to recognize, all right, anybody with quantum in their name, uh, is going to go, and to see the flow, come in, um, was really, it was rewarding in the sense that, flow reads like in some ways, I just have my filters up. I see what comes in, but when you already have an idea, like a big idea, a big market idea, and you're anticipating that flow, and then you just wait for it to come in, and then boom, matches up to levels you have, and then there we go. And at that point, it's just about managing it. And you get in a kind of a mania sector like this, you're never going to buy enough, and you're never going to hold it long enough. But don't worry about it. I mean, you're going to get some big wins on it, and
Well,
you can get back in, as we've seen.
yeah. Well, and hopefully, there'll be another sector and another thing to trade. That's also been proven with
Yeah,
time. There'll be another thesis, as we say, coming around. Not really the point I wanted to make on it, but what kind of popped in my head. I had a note in general to talk about the quantum computing and AI because when we first started talking about it, it was more of a you're going to need this quantum computing stuff to make this AI stuff that's running right now work. Like so, it was like
yeah,
the chicken before the egg thing. Which one's going to come first? Like you got to have good computers to make AI work, or the robot's not going to talk to you. That's not happening, especially wirelessly, right? Like
right, right.
that's not happening. So, but this week, I'm watching my news and eat my bacon and eggs like I do, and they're talking about like which one's going to win. Like quantum computing is going to be able to do the stuff that they're trying to say AI is going to do. So now they're competitors. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
so it's just how the thesis grows and changes from when we first got into it. Really, why that's relevant is it made me think in a video when I got into it the very first time, and it was because my buddy's a truck driver, and he was like, "This is how they're going to automate truck driving, and you have to have this chip, or like the graphics don't work right." And you play video games, so you know how good they are with Nvidia. And I was like, "Yeah, that makes total sense." But Nvidia didn't run on that. Like that's not. I mean, it's a small micro sector of that,
yeah,
but the having a thesis that you can stick to and kind of verify and evolve along the way helps you through that what you're talking about holding part and just trusting the thesis. And I posted. I mean, I could probably bring it up. I posted a picture in my room. So I think it's my last post about what people think it's like to hold and what it's actually like to hold. And that's just pretty accurate. I mean, it's usually a long process. I mean, even a short term trade is 2 quarters, right? Like you're saying, we've been on
yeah.
that for a year, so even a short term is like 2 quarters usually. Some things can take many years. Like look at crypto currently. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, so Rigetti is a good example. I mean, it popped off near 8, dropped under 6.
Mm-hmm.
Next day, back over 7. You at that point better have a position that is at an average dollars below here,
Mm-hmm.
and you go into it saying, "I'm going to weather these day to day
Well,
moves like this."
that's why my when you get that first pop or that euphoric, whatever. And if you do zoom out on the chart, it's really not much. You just do the half thing because then your average is so low that that's not coming back. Like you're
Yeah,
not going to lose that whole trade, and it's most of the time you get. I mean, Soundhound's the one that's on my mind right now, and talk about another one we were way early on. But people ask us begging, do I buy this in the sixes? Well, it's 50% above my 413 one line. You can, but you should already be managing a position that you got from the fours that went to the eights. Like you should already be
yeah,
managing
yeah.
it. And if not, you just kind of move on to the next one, or you small in your position size. I mean, you
Well,
have to. That's
right.
the management. I mean, if me, I mean, by now, trades are easy to find, easy. It's the management part that's key.
Yes, yeah, and on so in quantum computing, specifically it's like with semiconductors. I sort of point out that I'm like, most people who trade this stuff don't know what a semiconductor is, and it's not like, I mean, yeah, it's lines on a chart and whatever, but it is worth the time to learn a little bit about what quantum computing is. You're not going to go buy a quantum MacBook, anytime
No.
soon, because the things that these computers do, it's some encryption or equation or whatever that's gonna, for a conventional computer, would take the whole age of the universe to solve, and it solves it in 30 minutes. It's a very particular kind of task um, that they're having these things do. So um, it's definitely one of those things. Like it's a buzzword, but learning that, like, the substance behind it, and then how that's actually going to manifest itself, and then looking at, you get to the second stage. Like, so initially it's like everyone with quantum in their name is going to pop off. The longer term development of this trade, it starts to matter what these companies do, and more importantly, who they're partnered with and who uses them. And that's a like another thing that we identify, and that's another thing that shows up in flow as well. There's pop and fade flow on some of these smaller names, and then some of them you're like, okay, they're really starting to, they want some share control here. So this is the one that I think I'm going to hold. And so that's part of managing the trade too, is the real world aspect of what these companies are doing.
Yeah, I mean that's how you get that second and third level
Yeah,
gap up in those some of those charts, and and again, that's not gonna be a quarter thing. That's gonna the first move takes 2 quarters, so those second and third moves, if they take at least the same amount of time, if not more, now you're 18 months to 2 years into the trade. So I mean, it's just a
yeah,
bigger picture. Um, I mean, that's kind of the origin of stay on winners, really. I mean, that's why I stay. I mean, I tried the same stuff over and over again. Shout out Nvidia Square, like, and it I just didn't have this thesis research group before, so now I have 100 different things, and this one, it really seems the real world applications are. There's not a sector or a business that's not going to use it or have a piece of it. It's almost like the internet, to be honest. Like, how is that internet going to
yeah,
affect
yeah.
things? I mean, AI is that way because, saving pennies or streamlining anything. I mean, that's what businesses strive to do. So,
So uh, going back to a sector, we've done this before, several times in crypto. I I kind of wanted to ask you, because I think we did a really good job with the precision this round of, like, you want this one, you don't want this one. And they're miners, they're in the same sector. Um, Really, the most sustained trade, the whole thing, was crypto services, including Square. But with the miners, we had some setups and things. So, what is it like about the ones that are stagnant? Like, Bitcoin's over 100,000. They're trading where they were when Bitcoin was 65,000, and we stayed away from those this time. What was it to you that separated the ones we're going to target versus the ones we're going to avoid?
well, you got to have a couple checks. So I mean, where they are on the chart. I mean, that's why we kind of turned Riot and Mara off and on, and
Yeah,
CLSK never came back on. It's because they just don't get to an actual level. But with the secondary or third fish, some of those ones, like, when you just search places and see how much chatter is about them, there's just none. And then you look at the chart, and they're declining volume, and yeah, you got to have you want the ones, for me, that have, let's say, at least 3, 5, 7% range. I don't know. I don't want to really put a number on it, but that have activity, and then do have not unusual volume, but not a trending volume that's down. You want the volume to have good days, good days and bad days, I guess. Or I mean, not huge spikes, but just not a decline where we're going from, like, 80, 90% volume down to 70% volume, um, on your 30-day average, just that constant decline in volume. So I mean, that's what I first look at, and then you follow the news a little bit, when stuff's coming up. But the ones that get the volume and have a little bit of range are easier to say, all right, this is what's being defended, and kind of picking spots and going from there. So just extra checks on those. But I mean, for me, I've traded that so long that um, you just you just kind of you figure it out. It's not the secret sauce, but you get an eye for it after a while, which ones are going to work. This last cycle, I don't really keep score, but I kind of keep score. P. I ain't gonna lie on that one. But
Yeah,
I missed. I believe it was Hut. I missed. You had because I was stuck on 950 being the level I had to buy on, and it was like 12. Well, it's like 30 now, so it really didn't matter. But you actually hit a home run there. But man, I got a lot of the smalls right. So,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
but I think we're just getting better on trusting each other there for the most part. Because I kicked myself in the pants. I was like, man, you got to trust P on these, um, especially when it comes to crypto. Because just yeah, it's our baby almost.
The yeah, so the one and I'll mention a name in this session, but like the BitDeer
Oh yeah,
had the
Jesus, yeah,
the flow to punch through. It
paper
was
hands.
12 past 12, 18C, 20C. And then I'm looking at, I don't even really look at volume. I look at option volume,
Yeah,
share volume. But it looks like with BitDeer that the volume showed up with the election stuff and then it stayed around. And that is kind of, what carried it. And then there's no bag holders above because there's nothing above.
no.
So that was why that setup was so good. A CLSK on my end, it's bid side calls, and like people see volume on calls, and they're thinking,
It's
okay, 30C, 20C. It's a different setup. They're not putting those contracts out there to move that stock to that spot. There's just too much going against it for that to happen right
that
now.
I don't at this point. I just put this chart on my screen, and I don't want to ruin a good moment. You know what I mean? Like I don't.
Yeah, yeah,
So like I just put this chart on the screen and laugh, and I'm thankful for what it gave me. And I mean, people say, "Well, you didn't buy back then at 300," but yes, we did. Like I
yeah,
got to,
yeah, exactly.
I got to zoom out over here to when we bought. But yeah. So like it's checked out. It's gone. There's better fish, and the ones that move a little cleaner and sometimes aren't bag holders above, so to speak, are just easier to
Yeah.
trade. And this has never really gotten out of there. On the flip side of that, I'm surprised Mars or it made a run to where it did because of the bag holders above. But I digress.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's overcome some dilution. I mean, I would have thought that Mara would be under 20, like given everything. But it's held up pretty well.
I just thought the
Uh,
test was 25, not 30. That I mean, from 17, so
yeah, right.
tighter range. But no, it's overdid. Real quick, I watched. I think it was Tucker. I like Tucker. He just lets people talk. But he had this dude, and I could probably pull his name up. He's a Bitcoin guy, and the dude was like from the beginning of time. It seemed like, and he was
I know
saying
that.
Bitcoin was been hijacked by the government a long time ago. That's what he
Yeah,
said. Yeah. He said this Roger Ver guy. Um,
right, right.
yeah,
Yeah.
he said Bitcoin been hijacked by the government. Like they just own it all. They just own it all. They just bought it up when it was cheaper, and now it's price controlled. But but that's not the point. The point was he brought up some good fucking points, and I wanted your opinion on it. So you don't have to watch a 2 hour thing because I did. But he said, like when Bitcoin started, right? The thesis of Bitcoin was pretty simple, right? It's supposed to replace money, right.
Yeah.
It was
Yep.
supposed to be confidential or whatever you want to use the better word for that, right? You weren't supposed to be able
Hmm.
to understand who did it, and it was also supposed to be like quick, right? Like it's supposed to be seamless. Like we're gonna be able. This will be lightning. Bitcoin
Yeah.
is none of those three things.
Right.
None. Zero. Am I that yeah?
No, you're right. You're
That's
right.
just a
Yeah.
lay
I
down
mean,
on
it's
that.
yeah. So it is slow. It's slow compared to other
Super
crypto.
slow. Super
It's
slow.
slow compared to like Zelle or Cash App or whatever.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, and it's not really anonymous in that like, either. So you're right about that. And it
You can't use it to buy shit.
you can't use it to buy shit. Yeah, I mean, in rare circumstances. I think you can buy weed in Oklahoma with it in some of those shops. But,
You can still buy a Tesla with it. He was taking it for a while.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's other online vendors and things, and it's doing it or whatever. So yeah, I mean, I just to me, it's the digital gold definition is the best definition of what Bitcoin is, and it doesn't mean it necessarily moves like gold, but people speculate on it and get into it for specific reasons. And like gold, you buy gold and it's just gonna sit there unless you want to sell it to somebody else. And gold has some industrial obviously uses and things. And Bitcoin has some use cases too, but both cases are pretty small compared to why it has value. And it especially now with the ETFs, the price control that happens through ETFs is going to be like what happens with silver and gold. And so that's my take on it. And I think for a lot of people in crypto, the whole use case futurist idea about Bitcoin, like a lot of people really aren't thinking that anymore. It's a place to put your money to beat inflation over time. Because you look at the like Bitcoin versus the dollar, that chart looks ridiculous, and you say like, well, okay, well I missed it. I think you missed it in the sense that buying Bitcoin at $100,000, if you're just getting started here, unless you're planning to buy the same amount all the time, regularly, do the same thing over and over. I mean, that's the way to win, and that's honestly what MicroStrategy has done this whole time. He buys Bitcoin over 100,000, but over and over again, the stocks has gone up and up and up, and it's going to come down, and Bitcoin's going to come down. I think this generation's NFTs are the whole meme coin, pump fund, like all that shit. Is going to get worse, and then sentiment will turn against crypto. Bitcoin's going to fall to 65, 80,000, something like that. Seems like the end of the world, and then it sets up again, and we go into the next cycle, whatever. But yeah, no, I agree with that guy, and I just think that it's speculative asset, it's digital gold, and it still has a lot of potential from that end. And government FUD is going to be important and valuable to us because that's what's going to, you want to shake up range. That's what you want when you trade. So great sector for that.
So in general, it's a good spot that you can get some sort of growth in, even though it is a little bit volatile, that you can store money that's secure, maybe more
Yeah.
secure than say
Yeah.
a bank if you're in Venezuela or Brazil or Cayman Islands or even America.
I mean, so back when, heck, almost 2 years ago now, when I said like, Saylor might be right. That was my whole approach to it. And I had shorted MSTR, big collapse. Like that was actually when I got into it. And then, coin was, had fallen through 200. And I'm like, all right, well, we'll leave this alone for a while. And we were really disciplined about leaving crypto alone for months. And then we got back into it. And at that point,
Mara.
I was like, well, I think as part of this, I read a lot about Saylor, and I was like, I'm gonna do my own little Bitcoin strategy. And it wasn't much, but I every week I had an auto buy on Bitcoin that I've been doing this whole time, and it's done really really well. And by not looking at it and not even doing anything with it and just letting it sit there and being like, I'm just not going to sell this because what if Saylor's right isn't a 1 year thing? It's like decades thing. So yeah, I mean, like it's worked really well on that end, and then on the other end, it's just constantly jumping in and out of these trades. Uh, you look for things where you can time the market, and the best things to time the market in are where you have a commodity chart that you can pair with the sector. It's why I like oil. It's why I like copper, and it's why I like Bitcoin. Bitcoin's just a little crazier than copper, so different style, but same idea.
Yeah, no, I agree more. It's interesting. You kind of sold me on the, because I've talked crap about the meme coins, and I still have my overall thesis on Bitcoin being not to say a hijack, but just something coming out that they can use for those purposes. And then you looked into I was like, well, what has Bitcoin advanced in? And not they don't haven't really. I mean, I guess there's not a headquarters or office like saying, we need to call Pizza Hut so that we can buy pizzas with Bitcoin. No one's really doing that
Yeah,
legwork, but it
it's
makes sense on a storage container. It's better than burying it in your backyard. And
yeah. I mean, it was like for the you know the code and everything Bitcoin is built on to last this long without really any kind of intervention. I mean, it was very brilliant, is a brilliant design, for this thing, and then just yeah. So in terms of what you do with it, hasn't really advanced, but no one's been able to crack the code on it. And back to quantum computing, that's the FUD that is around with that
yeah, I did hear that.
quantum
I
computing
did see that
eventually is going to
story.
be able to to break the code on
Code on
Bitcoin,
Bitcoin. Yep.
which
Yep.
which would be catastrophic. Which it's also more complicated than just saying, oh, quantum computing will just break it. A lot that has to go into that, but yeah, I mean that's out there too, and that's another news item I look for. I mean, I love it when MSTR at times drops 20% overnight. Uh, that's great. I love it when that happens. So so yeah, I still look for moments like that. It'll have some bad days ahead, and people who jump in over leverage to the upside uh, at moments like now are going to be ones that lose. MSTR going into Nasdaq. How many times we've seen this happen?
Yeah.
Everything from Lululemon to SMCI. It's not a moonshot when these things get added to those. It's that forced buying
You
creates
have
a
to
lot of
hold them. Yeah.
liquidity
Have
that
to hold them.
that people can use to short it, because it's like, well, you can't sell it, so
Yep.
I'm just going to short this thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Just a little topic I want to talk about. Market. I call it market opposites, but my approach here is I've noticed. I mean, because we traded through the end of the good market, and then every last day showed up every last day of that bearish ass market for better part of 20 months, and then the turnaround into this good market, and I've noticed that both the highs and the lows, and maybe a little bit even at the first high, but the market's always opposite. And like, why is it that, to make a long story short, with us, like, I'm supposed to be the small cap guy, you're obviously the large cap option dude, but why is it when we
Yep.
get to where it's overextended or it's really trending, that I can find large caps easy and you can find small caps so easy? Why does that go the opposite way? And it was the same thing with the down market too, when we were going down outside of Facebook. The
Yeah.
largers were easy for me, and the smalls you would just nail. So yeah, I'm curious on your thought about that, and do you even see that or think that on your end, and how has your
Um,
approach changed there? Because I, I I don't really trade them, but they're like my best calls currently.
yeah, I think it's to do with where the money goes. And when to get you get the big explosive move, and then um, the option activity starts to slow down. So like John Deere is a pretty good example. when it was like 350. It was a really clean read for me to go to 400, and then that last dip, and then like the options pop in. Well, like right now, um, it's pretty stable, but there aren't options to carry this to 500 or something like that. You just get these like retraces. So like the home run reads on Facebook and ones like that, aren't really there at this stage. But a lot of the smalls, they're like they had a big win at the casino, and they're just like, all right, what am I going to do with this money? And I'm not gonna short Facebook with it. So hey, QuantumScape, send it. Like they seem to like really start to target that, and then whereas I don't have a good explanation for why some of these large caps go TA first, but that does seem to happen, and I've tried to anticipate that a little bit with soda's kind of the recent one. I had to look for some of this flow on the soda stocks, but I kind of like see it coming, like, and I anticipate it, and then all of a sudden you're talking about them, and I'm like, okay, well, this is probably what's going to happen with the flow on it, and then lo and behold, it pops up.
The last one that stood out to me on that side is BA. I mean, just the under
Yeah,
150 thing, but I mean, I was watching that pretty much daily, and you don't. Someone was spending money, and when you, I mean, I guess I just don't see. I mean,
yeah,
is it that way on your end where you're like, if I do the math on that, that guy's dropping, $150,000 a trade. Like that's not no small thing. Um, and seeing that, I don't
yeah,
know,
and
it's kind of ingrained in my brain, and you see that for over time, and it becomes it's to me a safe level. So I don't know if you kind of have that there, like where it looks different to you.
yeah, it right, and I think it's something I look for too is if I can start to recognize the same buyer over and over again, because they'll just buy in the same strike, same amounts every
Yeah, yeah,
day, and then
yeah.
I do add it up, and I'm like, they have spent like $12 million in the past 6 weeks on this contract. So it's like yeah, I think they're anticipating a move here. So, but yeah, that's where like flow, like I check flow every day, but you get enough experience, you start to see the bigger story with it.
So is that the secret sauce then? A little bit is like on the smaller stuff. If you're filtered even by, let's say, like 100 or 500, like the one buyer stands out on that because that's the only buyer buying at that size, and that's not normal on the
Yeah,
smaller,
yeah, they just can't
something like that.
they can't hide. Yeah, I think that's the
See,
big
and it's
thing.
the other way for me. That's interesting because it's the other way for me, and it's usually around a psychological or an SMA or something, and you just get these really big buyers at that level over and over again. But it's interesting that it does come down to like it's just that's interesting to me. Um, Kind of a similar approach. I have to catch mine in real time or or use a filter and then rewatch to kind of catch the big buys. But
Right.
um, yeah, they stand out. And I mean, again, like I do the math on it. It's like that's 150K, 150. He's dropping 150K every 25 minutes. What the hell? And
Hey, so
you see that. So go ahead, go ahead.
one of the smalls, Piton, like we were
Yeah,
in
good
agreement on
call.
on Piton, and do you think it is that it didn't fade back this time?
Well,
Because
it
it
did
had
it.
done this a few times.
It did. It's just holding the level it needs to hold where the middle weight the weight is at, which is good. That's what
Oh,
we
okay,
want.
yeah,
So I mean, yeah, we're just moving up shelves here. So we want this volume P to flip up here to this 840 area P, but we're higher or low, so not a buying opportunity. We had that for a month, right? You had that get back
yeah, yeah.
after we first got there, but we're in a good position. I assume news will come in or something, and we'll complete the channel like we usually do. Um, but man, we're a long way from like your
Well, this is
380s that you when you got back on this at like 380 I think was my first entry.
Yeah, and it's the interesting thing about what you just laid out there. I can say like both of these statements. I do think that Piton is going to go, towards $20. Like I think 16 to 20, something like that. But I also don't think it's a buying opportunity. And it's funny for someone to hear that. Like, well, it's only 10. You're saying it's going to go, 16 to 20, but you're also saying I wouldn't buy it here.
Yeah,
What
no.
is that about?
Well, when
Uh, be,
for me that's easy. When 840, when the volume profile flips, I'll trust it. But your center mass is still $5. I mean, this could hold 9 or it could hold 8. And if it doesn't hold 9, which would be a great high or low, eight's not strong. I mean, it's really not. So I
yeah,
mean,
right.
that's just the TA side. So you wait for that to build, and in a couple more weekly candles, as we like to say, if it's still trying to confirm this $10 psych. And then you're going to hear me ask the professor for sold puts, and it'll be a different situation. But right now, you just have to let support build, at least on the TA side.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was kind of the same thing like with INQ. People were talking like at like 25, like, oh, I think I want to get into this. And it was just, I'm like, you've been in this room this whole time, and now you want to buy it. And I think there are trades there and everything, but there just really is something to be said with these smalls. If you believe in the bigger move, to just you just already want to be in it and just keep some, and
If you're in
it's so much easier.
our room and you follow just my basic stuff, I'll give you 450. Like, I'll give you a late entry. I'll give you volume profile entry there at 450. But you should have already
Yeah.
sold half of that by now. So your average is probably like $1 on some shares. If you sold half, like I always say, to start there. Like,
Mhm.
if you're in that position, you're not asking me to add at 9. So go to the stuff that we're talking about that's still really uncomfortable, because this is autopilot if you managed it, or you could have paper handed it like me and already sold it all. I mean, that's an option too. But either way,
Yeah.
it's not rebuy here until it sets back up. I
Well,
mean,
yes, and so that, like, and then we'll get to some boring stuff, but that was one of the things that I tried to emphasize, like on Friday. I'm like, I want you guys to see this process. I AVGO massive home run this morning, but I'm looking at like oil pipelines, and last week I was looking at soda and
yeah, like
whatever. So I'm not gonna like, just get a great win on some sector on quantum computing and then like, okay, that's my whole thing. Or crypto. All right, I'm just dude crypto. I'm all about crypto, crypto, crypto. Like I still try to look at the next idea. And oil stocks are not going to do what quantum computing stocks did. But there's some safe and reliable setups that are building, and those low effort, trades over time where you hit your 20-30% over a couple months. That's where you want to park some of your money too. And so yeah, we find the big explosive things. I'm trading $50 moves on LLY and posting notes about that all the time. But there's really something to be said for keeping your keeping your attention, across a wider breadth of the market and looking for opportunities, because that's what the people I'm following. I'm not talking about some Twitter idiot. Like, I mean the actual money that moves things, the manipulation, where it comes from. That's what they're doing. They take a broad look at things, and they're putting their money places. And so I'm trying to read that, and it's not going to be the most exciting stuff. And we have said from the beginning, boring is good, and that's not going to change no matter how euphoric the market looks. Boring is still king to me.
yeah, and if you're that PDT or less guy, that's a good way to put it. And you got, let's say you're a 15 guy, because it's gonna make the math easier for me. You should probably have 10 towards that boring and 5 playing with the other stuff. just in
Yeah.
general, just to get well. First of all, you're gonna run into the PDT rules if you only have 15, so that's gonna help you there, and
Yeah.
and just wean yourself off of options a little bit and give yourself a little more time. Yeah, yeah, I think you have to do that, especially when the market where we are gets a little frothy. Um,
Yeah.
because that stuff. I mean, it's almost like a win for me, a win-win. Like either you're gonna get a rotation over there, or everything's doing so damn good, they're gonna have to use those things because those things are doing so damn good. Like oil's got to do good if we're shipping shit from all these companies, right? They're selling
Yeah.
products,
Hmm.
moving freight. Like that's they're gonna need gas, and then same thing. Well, FedEx has got to come back, and so that
Yeah.
just that you get that sector rotation if the market's good. It's just how good is the overall markets, or is it one kind of market in general? So yeah, no, I'm with you on that. And for me right now, obviously, I don't think oil's number one, but top three. But that silver sure is number one for me. So, but
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
talk some boring stuff. Pop it up here.
Yeah. So,
71 on oil. Let's go.
yeah, I think it's held up very well. You're not seeing a catastrophic breakdown in oil, and it's the stocks aren't really reacting that much to the moves that those taps at 68. 68 held up, wicked below a few times. Not a big deal. But yeah, I think the question is it going to break through and hold, I don't know, 72, 74, and then break out towards 80? That's kind of what you're looking for. Um, I still think there is a scenario for $90 plus oil. But I don't think the trades that we're setting up need that to happen. I just think it could happen. So I try to stay mindful of that. But yeah, there's a lot of, well, I think there's two things. There's big oil companies that do everything. And that we know those names. That's a good place to be. And then anything that involves the like building an infrastructure of oil and moving it around pipelines, all those midstream names, those are popping up a lot for me too. So that's an indication of sector health to me. When people are getting when I see money going into oil and it's just Exxon and a few others, I'm like, okay, this is almost like a hedge for a market pullback. But when I just see that broadening that we talk about throughout the sector, it's like, okay, there's something brewing here that I think could actually be sustained. And so that's why I like that sector so much right now.
Yeah, no, I just follow your lead on the overall thesis on it, but
Yeah.
red's usually good for oil. Um, he talks a pretty good oil game, and I know there's a personal pipeline for him when you think locally, and then any turmoil in the Middle East usually leads to volatility in the oil market, and we've just been flat for the whole year. So I mean, it's really been a quiet oil market this year. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm with it, and we'll talk about that one name and the acquisition of the other company, but I think there's some good some Bitcoin level spots on some of these oil
Yeah.
charts. Or if you want to be a dividend guy, you can look into that too. But yeah,
Yeah.
when it comes to the smaller stuff, I got one or two with a thesis. I really like the shippers again. If we're talking about
Yeah.
a shitty penny sector, your
Right.
Nova Nats and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, yeah. Um, good consolidation in that sector, P. Not necessarily the most active. The one that's kind of not the still the direction of it, but the uranium kind of being down on the year. I seen that in the news. And
Yeah.
the chart was reflecting that last week, at least the ones we follow a little bit. But that's a slower thesis that kind of played into that AI needing power, EV needing power. We just need power stuff. So um, where are you at? Where you at with that?
Yes. And so well, so I think that uranium got kind of like a look as well, maybe, this isn't as dirty an energy as, you know, we used to say, like clean energy future should have some uranium in it. And then I still think any kind of European energy independence has to be that. They just don't have anything else. They don't have
Yeah, yeah,
enough coal,
nothing.
oil, coal, nothing. They got nothing. So they need to start those places back up. And then to me, the natural gas story is going to change. I think that
Has to.
there's going to be positivity around natural gas, and the way that it's held up over three, going to probably move from 3 to 350 for a while, but that's going to break out and just not stop. So I think you want to get a piece of that. I wouldn't necessarily say that you get into the over leverage stuff, but the combo stocks, I think those are going to do very well. And CRK already is, had a hell of a week. So um, there, like a lot of those are tradable already, but there's a bigger thesis brewing for natural gas, and I think the natural gas powering AI is actually something that we'll see next year, that people will talk about. We have so much of it. I mean, it's and it burns pretty clean compared to other things.
Yeah, I think we have a backdoor deal with EU right now, in
Yeah,
in support of the Ukraine war, and it's price controlled, and Trump's going to not allow that. He's going to say this is a
right,
he's going to say this is a free market, and just that in general, going back to a free market, it's 4.5, $5 in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah.
In my opinion, just because their use over that they have the um. So yeah, I booked that trip to Palm Springs. I gotta get you that info so you know when I'm out. But every fucking Airbnb down there, everyone has an upcharge on their pool and hot tub heating because it's natural gas and the prices are so damn high. So
Yeah, right,
we're paying for it. This one dude wanted $12 an hour. I was like, are you kidding me?
right.
It's 24 hours in a day, sir. Um, yeah. So I just think in general there's a deal going on there, and that's all gonna get untangled here in about a quarter, and
Yeah,
we'll see this level out. So that's more of a short term. The uranium's a long term. Like the uranium to me is undervalued from a like a 5 to 10 year, 3 to 5 year perspective. Because if when that opens up, these prices of especially the stocks, um,
yeah.
they're not coming back.
So it's yeah. I mean so uranium in its units, however they sell it by the pound or whatever. It had spiked over 100, like 105 at its peak. It's down to 76, and it's been in a downtrend, and the stocks have held up pretty well given that, but they'll take their next leg up when this chart turns around, and I do expect that to I do expect that to happen. Uranium's not going back to 60 or $50 or something like that. Um, so that is something to watch for sure.
Everything else, gold, silver, copper. I know those are our
Mm-hmm.
wheelhouse ones. They're all pretty stable as of late. They're
Yeah,
not really doing too much, which is good because it's you get consolidation in the charts. For me, when I translate that to a TA look at charts, the silver definitely is the blue chip of the gold, a little overextended. Um, Copper, it's good in the names if you know names that copper affects, but you're playing a smaller range, and then silver just has a lot of room. Um, I, I I think it'd take more from the silver though. Like we probably have to get back to 34, 36 to kind of move the silver charts from a
yeah,
commodity side. But the I think they're just going to win on ER reports. Because prices up. We 26 was our level on silver, correct? And
yeah.
we're selling at a premium right now, and it's still pretty high demand. It seems.
Right. Yeah, and we saw, and I mean, it's hasn't historically been a sector for earnings, to trade on earnings, but we have seen that with Barrett Gold kind of was the blueprint for that. That a lot of them are actually moving up pretty significantly on earnings. So I'm with you there, and also I would say that the way that earnings work on that, reading the report is important, and it's
Important,
not
yeah. Yeah.
You're not looking for the the 20% after hours move
No.
for your options or something
It's
like that.
it's
But the earnings sparks a more sustained move forward over months, basically.
yeah, it's that 20% over the next 2 months, and then the hopefully what you're looking for is the anticipation into the next report, and you get the run up into that report. So it's still a the quarter long move, but you get 20 is probably low. So I'll go like 30 to 60, 70% on some of those charts um, that
Yeah.
that we've picked up along the way. So for me, that's a great trade for a quarter or two, and then again, along with the oil, just the commodity trades are usually a little slower moving, but just a way safer place.
And then last boring thing I'll say, and then so this is I'm not even going to get into it, like start trying to talk like an economist or something. But so when the 10-year yield is
Mm-hmm.
going up and the 20-year yield is going down,
Similar bonds,
it
right?
doesn't mean that, yeah, on bonds, like it doesn't mean that the market is about to crash. But what it does tend to mean is that you get a lot of the pop and fade, and you really don't want to chase calls in options in the morning when this particular setup is occurring. It's probably never a good idea, but like right now in particular, you really need to wait for things to kind of shake out, because for one thing, the options right early in the morning when it's green in the pre-market on no volume at all, the premiums are going to be jacked. So your given contract is going to be overpriced by about, you know, $20 to $50 depending on what, how much it is. Uh, so you got that going against you, and you just can't sustain a move to the upside when yields are doing this. I've just seen it enough to know. I don't know why it is. I can't tell you a lot about the specifics about what's happening with these, but when you got SPY grinding up at all time highs and the 10-year moving up, something's got to give, and it's usually going to give in the sense that the stocks are going to pull back and find some equilibrium. Not even great to short either, but yeah, you do get a lot of those pop and fade moves. So I just really encourage people to be mindful of that and picky. Don't just think you're going to go full send on AMD Alpha Gold Flow or something when
Whoa.
things are set up this way.
What's that? Yeah, and I don't want to undermine anything you said, so I'll keep I'll comment to myself. But I put that with the flow. It's another thing that um, I didn't want to add ever to my mix, so I don't really pay attention to futures and bonds and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, if you're seeing a consistency there, yeah, definitely take that to heart. If you're an options trader, don't listen to me. Listen to P.
Well, I think I mean, it's options in particular that like that's where I care about it.
Yeah,
Is
I have a
it it,
note.
it it messes with the premiums to me.
I have a note in general, and it fit what you said. Not that I want to talk about it right now, but where are the sellers at? And what you said about the pre-market, I mean, that's the same goddamn thing. There's just no sellers right
Yeah.
now, and so things are frothy. And yeah, I could see how that could be. It goes up 10%, and you do something, and it just takes that back instantly because there's just nothing there. They need liquidity. They want to trade the most shares on the day, so they move price around for
Um.
that.
Yeah,
For that, so
and the so the VIX is the other one that like I'm mindful of. I don't really pay that much attention to it in the sense of like deciding when to trade or whatever. But when the VIX is low, this is where you'll you see those accounts like he'll post some zero DTE SPY trade, and then he'll get pissed off that you know SPY's moving, but my contracts aren't moving. Well, the value of your contracts is just a math problem, and if you don't know what those letters mean in that math problem, even on a basic level, you definitely shouldn't be trading options, because all of that market volatility and everything like is a huge part of why those contracts even have value. And to me, I mean, people are kind of lucky that when you think about it logically, why do they even let people do this? Why are you able to buy a contract on SPY that you could never exercise? Like you don't your net worth wouldn't exercise this contract
Yes,
on
yeah, yeah.
SPX, and it's like, but yet you're allowed to trade this little thing because it's profitable for the people selling it. That's the easy answer of why you're allowed to do it. And so that means that if it's profitable for the person to sell it, they're going to make money off you losing. So you need to find the ones where you have some kind of advantage and you can win. And that's why most people who pile into options lose is because they're not seeing that part of it, and they're just trying to get their 1,000% on their $30 contract or $8 contract or whatever. And
Let's go.
you can't reliably do that. I don't care what they
Yeah,
say.
that's why they trade meme coins specifically right now. They gave up.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
They gave up. Perfect. Spicer, getting a little deep here.
yeah, yeah.
Like we know
All
what
right.
we're doing over here. I got a red candle last week, just a couple pennies below, but pretty much flat inside bar. Um, what did we do last week? 610 yours, 609 mine. We got 608, so just a bit above. In anticipation of keeping it up. You were 599. I was 601. Same thing. So we basically missed like $1 on each side. Um, either way you cut it. So yeah, good stuff. I had the tighter range, so I'm gonna call it a win. No, I'm just kidding. Um,
That's fine.
I, I'm expecting. I don't know when, Pete. I don't know if you are. But I'm expecting a solid week of just ass volume, a little bit of selling
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
for the taxes. One of these 2 weeks coming in here. Not that there won't be good stuff, but the stuff that people watch, your overall stuff, spy included, gonna have a little bit of pullback. Nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. 592, maybe
yeah.
588, something like that. But it's gonna be one of these 2 weeks. I just feel it. I just been here too many times. You've seen the movie. This is the girl just got into the car. A guy's not talking to her. They're driving down the road. You've seen the movie. You know what's happening.
Yeah. Um, I got a new contract for us to watch,
Okay.
or that I'll watch and just tell you about. September
Always
535p.
535.
Yeah,
Ooh.
which is
Ooh.
about that's like a $1,100 contract that they are going to be buying and selling. There's almost 100,000 open interest on it, so it's kind of waking up. And as a lot of dead OI is going to fall off uh, this week, and especially on January 17th. Um, that's all. That was like the lead number for that year, and so like there's a lot of stuff there that's just been dead for months. So as this OI chart refreshes in January, that 535p is going to be an active contract as a hedge or whatever. But it is ask side right now. So any kind of even if they make a couple $100 on this on any kind of market pullback, they're going to then use that to do whatever else it is they do. But yeah, that's the one that stands out to me right now
Why do they always like September? That's interesting. That's their month. Um,
because it sets up for the 1-2 punch for January. So
yeah.
like if they're going to play both sides, they'll go upside with the longer date paired with the downside for the shorter date, and they'll just sort of move that around and arbitrage it, whatever.
I mean, TA side it makes point. We got a 532, 57 auto RTL on the day, which is the last one on the auto RTL I have on the bigger time frames, and pretty much right at your 50 SMA on the weekly. That's where that's at. So again, not a crazy dramatic pullback. People will say the sky is falling when it happens. At some point, it's just needed. 50 SMA
Yeah,
test. It's just gonna have to happen. Yeah. So I think um, we're gonna really cross that bridge, or that if we're gonna go that way for real when they pause the rate cuts the first time. When they just say, oh, we're not going to
Yeah,
cut right now. That's it. But I still think we're on schedule to get three next year, which is plenty. But the market will pout when you make them take a timeout. I don't know if we're
yeah,
pouting
absolutely.
down to 5:30 though. I mean,
No, I don't. And it's so far out that it doesn't need to do that. I mean, it could be 555 or 550. It could be
575. Does that still do it for you?
570.
Yeah,
Yeah, 570 would do it for me. Yeah.
perfect. So what do you got this week? What kind of numbers you want to pull out your ass? That's how I feel.
Uh,
That's at least how I. I mean, that's how I feel in
yeah,
the middle
yeah.
of this
No,
thing.
that's where I'm at. I think let me get a little below the wicks here. Yeah, I'm gonna say 598.95 down and 606.85 up. So I'm leaning down a little bit.
Nice. Well, numbers haven't really affected the market, and we do have rate on Wednesday, but I don't think they're going to pause yet. Um,
No.
so I think that's good for us. So, will you say yours again? I'm sorry. Sorry. I,
Yeah, so it was 598. I think it's 95,
okay.
and then say
So you're still 600 psych. Interesting.
606.52.
I like that. I like the 607.41 as the top, which we kind of rejected that three of the days last week. This is the top right there. Actually, I'm gonna go a buck more, so we'll go 608. Um, and then that you have the 600 psych. I kind of like that as well. So I'm gonna stay on this side of it. So 601 cent. Yeah, yeah, kind of inside candle still though, and then um, yeah, maybe a little. We keep getting that rotation of SPY all time high today, Nasdaq all time high today, and it's just like this constant rotation of one of the indices at an all time high that is in the news. So
Yeah.
um, I think we get a little bit, like again, a little bit of pullback, but 600 just being the pivot. It seems like here, P. It's very very interesting to me.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that. I mean, so one thing I'll say about SPY that I want to get your opinion on. SPY is up however many, percent the past couple of years. But over that same time frame, and I think they took it from like 2022, late 2022 to now. However much SPY is up in that same period, S&P earnings are up 5%. So like they don't like the growth in earnings doesn't match how much SPY has gone up. But I'm wondering, I mean, is that kind of an arbitrary comparison to make? That I mean, SPY isn't moving this much up on earnings anyway. So does it even matter, or is that an indication that we're massively overextended?
No, I really think the elephant is the room that like if inflation went up 25%, the price of everything has to go up 25%, even the valuation of the companies or how the dollar is interpreted to a value amount.
Yeah,
I mean
right.
that's 25%, and then your normal, let's just say your normal increase in the market is that 5%. So now you're talking 30, and if you look at it from that angle, on a 2 year average, that's pretty much what we've done. So I just think that the dollar is worth less, right? You spend it, I
Yeah,
spend it, it's worth less, so you pay a little bit more for everything, including SPY shares.
yeah. I mean, so like when I was a kid, machines didn't give you $100 bills.
Yeah.
Pretty common now, right? So,
Exactly, exactly. So I mean
yeah, yeah,
that's just the way it's going. And I mean that may be simplistic and it may not be 100% accurate, but I said it a while ago that that's going to have to come out in the wash somehow. I mean the dollar's just worth a different amount. So if you have money, your money needs to grow. That's the point of investing. Like it's just keeping up with the value of the dollar. So now shares are worth more because the dollar's worth less. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's how I look at it. Could be wrong. I don't know.
no, I like it. Um, I do, yeah, and I just I kind of look at it in that just look for the rather than looking for the market to collapse, look for that we're punished during this move up and what they could do to catch up, and that's what snow was all about, and we can find those all the time.
Yeah, but we're not talking 280 anymore, so different cycle.
Yeah, right. Yep.
All right, you ready to get to work, P?
Yep.
Perfect. Like and subscribe. Like somewhere, people.